So how do we identify this stuff? So first, have you faced harassment based on your age? I will tell you, at my last tech startup, which is a predecessor to Zoom, I had just gone on a long trip to Asia. I came back and I grew a very well-groomed mustache. By the way, it was gray. I walked in the room, a meeting. My boss and a colleague sat in the corner and they snickered at me. It was like walking in a room with a bunch of children. Seeing a pattern of only hiring younger employees. I'll use the example, get at my last startup. I had a buddy who was trying to get into the marketing department. And he was a little younger. He was a guy. And I told him, you're not going to get hired. You have the wrong plumbing. And what I meant by the wrong plumbing, the woman who hired, the only people she hired were clones of her. And she'd done it 11 times. Now, I can't tell you that those people weren't the most qualified, but they weren't going to hire him. Hearing age-related remarks. This is one of the interesting ones, because this has happened to me. I have two stories about this. We have a recruiter back in Austin, or here in Austin, who would come in regularly into our job club. And he would talk about, this was about 10 years ago, he was asked to go interview with a major software company in Washington State. You can figure out which one it was. Begins with an M. And he ran the gauntlet the one day, and they asked him, you need to come back the next day. And he interviewed with the major executive, with somebody else, and finally sat down with the hiring executive. And she looked at him and said, I'm just not sure you have the energy. So he walked out of the room, went on the plane. A couple hours later, he realized that called me old. Now, if he had been able to understand that was the message she was delivering at the time, he could have addressed it. Probably wouldn't have made any difference. But you know what? It would have made him feel a whole lot better. So, and similar to the hearing the age-related remarks, my gray mustache is another classic example. And by the way, when I left that second startup, I had a new manager, and I wanted to hire another trainer who was my age, mid-50s, and he used the exact same language. I don't know. I don't want to make my first hire because, he just doesn't have the energy. And by the way, I did not realize that was an age-related mark. Getting turned down for a promotion. Again, I had a good buddy at my last startup who had worked for IBM. And he kept on getting run over for the next job and the next promotion. And he finally sat his boss down saying, why am I not getting this stuff? And his response was, oh, you don't have enough career runway, which is code for you're not going to work long enough for us to invest in you. Now, If he had heard that along early, again, it's something he could have addressed. Similar, being overlooked for challenging work assignments, becoming isolated and left out. And I can tell you, at my last tech startup, boy, did I get left out. Being encouraged to or forced to retire, i.e., being told, do you have plans to retire? Has anyone heard that? Now, I'm going to address this. The only way to overcome ageism is to look good for your age. That's helpful, but it's also how you behave. Obviously, experiencing layoffs, having your position eliminated, and has anyone been put on a employment improvement plan or a performance improvement plan? It's a way to force you out. And obviously facing unfair discipline.